Okay, so welcome to the 13th episode of Omnibus Fridays. And side note, I did finally clean out my closet. So what I had for the longest time is I had a bunch of when summer rolled around, I put all of my heavier coats in the back of the omnibuses. Now it's getting warmer or cooler, I need to take those out. I just spent the last, I would say, 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes, I'd say. Just clean out the closet. It's one of those things like I'm not one of those guys that usually cleans out stuff. I'll just always procrastinate and then it gets too late. And usually I don't have to clean out things. Usually I just leave them how they are. Um, but when I do, it's kind of like one of those things where you never realize how much it's like a relief because there's a bunch of like coats and sweatshirts and stuff like that. Stupid junk that I had there, and now I can finally put those omnibuses right against the wall. Let's see, like that. Can you see that? I can't see that. Yep, you can see it right there. It's right in that corner. So that's pretty cool. And yes, I share a closet. My mother has her like clothes in there. It's not mine that are on the little hooks. My mother has. She's like me, where she has like I have a lot of comics. She has a lot of clothes, and she has to use mine. What's nice is that she doesn't usually have to come in, so that's good. But anyways, moving on. Let's start with the 13th episode, and today we are going to focus on The Invisibles by Grant Morrison, and I'm going to do a little snapshot. It's too much. That's way too bad. The Invisibles by Grant Morrison Omnibus, collecting everything that he did for Invisibles all in one thick omnibus. For the longest time, this was the thickest omnibus I ever owned, by not too much of a landslide. I think by at least, or at the most, 200 pages. Now, a little story because I have not read this book yet. Little side story kind of thing of why I finally decided to get this. Well, I get seen at my local library. I don't know when I got into Grant Morrison. I don't know if it was because of was that? I'm trying to think of. Usually I would do it like, oh, I got his new X-Men omnibus, and now I'm in the Grant Morrison kick. I don't know, but I was in the Grant Morrison kick, and I got like everything the library had of his. I'd check out, and Invisible showed up, and this is interloans, by the way. This what I did my local library, and I did interloans. Interloans means you get it from other libraries, and the Invisible showed up, the omnibus, and I was like, yeah, let's get that. Or maybe it was the omnibuses. I think that's what it was. I was in the omnibus kick, getting omnibuses from my local library. So one of those things. And long story short, they did not have it, and I was like, damn it. And I'm honestly look at the omnibus after like when I first got it. I was like, yeah, thank God I didn't do that. I'd still be reading it to this day, probably not to this day, but you could be right. And I mean, back then I would just take it as long as I needed, but it was still I would have had to renew it for a month at least, and I give you a month to read it. But this one, so yeah, they didn't have the omnibus, and then I saw the deluxe editions. I put those in. They didn't have those either. And what was kind of annoying is they had everything. What was kind of annoying is they had everything, all the deluxe editions, the entire omnibus. So I was like, okay, fine, I'll get it myself. I actually want to look at that in Gmilks because Gmilks sometimes also they have something that they actually don't. I gotta look that up now. But yeah, it was weird too because the library said they had it. Of course, my laptop's not turned on right now. My laptop is so weird. Like if you can't leave it on sleep mode overnight, or else it'll shut off, or do something even worse, where it'll say, "Yeah, I'm on. Just click a key." Wait, I'm not on. I gotta close it for like a few minutes, and then it will shut itself off. It's really weird. But I feel like I have problems with every single one of my devices. My Xbox, I have Silver 360, by the way, scratches my discs. That's not even like a joke. It does. My laptop, the aforementioned thing with the power mode, and it has the shittiest battery life ever. My iPhone is still older. My iPad, same thing. Usually it's just for all my like iPad, iPhone, and my laptop, for the most part, it's just the battery. It's a smaller thing. It's like sometimes the phone will glitch, but it's usually because of apps. Try to do it in Gmilks, seeing if they had it. Because Gmilks, if they have something on Gmilks, they have it at my local library. they have it. I'll be able to get it. Let's just see. Invisibles. Arthur and the Invisibles. I remember that movie. Saw it once and never saw it again. It's like way back when it released. Nope, they don't have it. Nothing at all, actually. So yeah, it's not invincible, but invisible. That was the joke I was supposed to make before I showed it off. But so yeah, so I got in it, I didn't have it, so I decided to buy it myself. I'm glad I did. For the longest time, I wasn't the biggest Grant Morrison fan. I would say if you're not the biggest Grant Morrison fan, reread what you didn't like from him. For the longest time, I didn't say I hated the filth that was written by him. I actually want to put that in again. I want to say I hated that book per se. It was just kind of like, it was too much Grant Morrison for me. But each time I've reread it, I've liked it even more. I've come to appreciate it so much more that honestly, like, I am finally understanding why people say it's one of their favorite Grant Morrison books. It's like exactly what we'd want for a Grant Morrison book. Yeah, it doesn't make sense and it's completely nonsensical, but it's a good kind of nonsensical, not like Simon Spurrier where it's just stupid. But Invisibles collects all 59, if I did the math right, issues. I think it's technically 60 if you include the anthology 10-page story that's included in here. So I will list off what it collects. And what's funny is that this came out around the time of one of the most underrated Vertigo comics ever written by J.M. DeMatteis, called Seekers into the Mystery. And I remember it being advertised, Invisibles and Preacher were advertised in the back. They were like solicits, which I was like, I always found that funny. I always like when a book advertised a book I already own. Like Image Comics at the back of their books, I'll advertise other books, and it was always supposed to smile on my face. That's stupid as it sounds. And they advertised the book that I got. It's kind of like, yay. So this was Invisibles 1 through 25, Absolute Vertigo, Invisibles Volume 2. I don't know what I mean by that. Sorry, Absolute Vertigo. Then Invisibles Volume 2, 1 through 22, Vertigo Winter's Edge, Issue 1, which is the anthology, and then Invisibles 3, 12 to 1. They went backwards, which is something they have not done in a long time for any books. Okay, it's dying. I got to plug this guy in. I don't know if it's actually charging. Shoot. Better be. My charger doesn't work too great either. I know, yet another thing. It doesn't tell me if it's charging or not, so if it dies, it dies. If it doesn't die, it doesn't die. So yes, Grant Morrison, The Invisibles. Here's how it looks on the dust jacket. Pretty much the same as we get, almost the exact same as what you get above the dust jacket. This retails for $150, ages 17 and up, as almost all Vertigo titles are. The only one I don't think was technically 17 and up was a Warren Ellis book that I read, Global Frequency. That didn't have a whole lot of language in it. There's a few things. Maybe it'll probably be PG-13, honestly. It's tough for PG-13, but saying it would be rated R is too much. They have a little barcode, kind of like lopsided kind of thing. DC, but they say DC Black Label. Yes, they do. So I think I believe I got the new printing. The other one was DC Vertigo. It would not have been Black Label. The first printing did not come out that recently. So yeah, I'll show the artwork. It's a bunch of artists too. And Gerard Way, the biggest Grant Morrison fan outside myself. I'd say he's more of a Grant Morrison fan than I am, because he's probably read everything Grant Morrison has read, including this. So a bunch of artists here. I'll show them all. I don't think Steve Dillon did anything. I remember thinking he did, and I was like, oh, that'd be kind of cool if he did, but he didn't. So I'll list them all off. Keith Aiken, Philip Bond, Mark Buckingham, so he is an artist, Dennis Kramer, Kim Mulder, Glenn Dillon, not Steve Dillon, but Glenn Dillon, that's probably why I thought it was Steve Dillon, Tommy Lee Edwards, Duncan Ferregrado, Dick Giardo, Mark Hempel, Ryan Hughes, Phil Jimenez, Paul Johnson, Ray Christine, Michael Lark, Grant Morrison, Dean Omston, Arnold Pander, not Palmer, Pander, Jacob Pander, Steve Parkhouse, Mark Pennington, Sean Phillips, Warren Pence, please, Frank Quietly, Ivan Reese, Ron Ridgway, If you know, you know. Jake Stevens, Cameron Stewart, John Stokes, Jill Thompson, Chris Weston, Ashley Wood, and Steve Yewell are all the artists, and then colorists is Ken Sommers, Rick Taylor, and Daniel Vosro. And then letterers, I'm not gonna go over. Original series cover: Brian Boland, Ryan Hughes, and Sean Phillips. Brian Boland is a cover artist, I guess, for the Omnibus, and then the visuals obviously created by Grant Morrison. So it seems to be. I think it's a superhero comic. I don't know a whole lot about it, but you might as well say it's about anything you want to say it's about because, or if you read it, yeah. But I'm definitely gonna read this ASAP. It's Vertigo, Grant Morrison, one of the best books apparently. Everyone seems to love it. As a Grant Morrison fan like me, I am in for a treat. There's gonna be a lot of book to read. I think I'm gonna do once the holidays roll around is take about like I do now, make that 3 weeks into 4 weeks. So I'm gonna be doing that pretty soon here. Actually, this week I'm taking 3 weeks off to finish all the books instead of 2. I think I'm gonna double that once the holidays roll around. We have to. And that, as they say, is that. It's a quick overview. I showed the artwork. I gave you all the artist names. Said who it was written by. I didn't give a 200 plot synopsis. I'm sorry for that. Look it up yourself, I guess. And I told you a little story about it. But I think that was all I had to tell because I knew it was the second story I was going to tell, but I can't remember what it was. But yeah, it took a long time to get it, and it was one of the thickest omnibuses. It was such a nice purchase, and it was around the time that I purchased Planetary too, because Planetary was another one that they didn't have. They do. But out the hard way. It was just the trades, but it was still, you know. And Planetary apparently when it's Gen 13 missing. It's Gen 13 issue that's missing from it, not the Batman Planetary from that to the Absolute. But that, as I say, is that 12 minutes. 13 minutes.